Blast
What
off
up?
like the SpaceX didn't.
Hey,
Oh,
damn, that hurt. That hurt.
That
All right,
one's for you, Elon.
ladies and gents, we're gonna be giving away the full ebook.
What?
So if you want to get started with the power of podcasting, stay tuned.
Shut up and sit down.
The Business Bros Podcast was created for you. Learn from the business professionals who come to share their stories. Find out what's working in business and social media, what's hot and what's not, straight from the mouths of successful entrepreneurs out there doing the real work. And now, welcome to another episode of
Business
Bros! Woo! Happy Friday!
Friday.
It is Friday, dude.
So happy it's Friday.
Reflection Friday.
Reflection Friday. Ooh, I like that. That's a good one.
It is. And you know, it's funny. In the 5 a.m. club, we have reading Thursdays because Thursday has an R in it.
Right.
But so does Friday. So maybe we can call it Reflection Friday because Friday has an R in it too.
Yeah.
Plus it's at the end of the week. So that totally makes sense.
Right. Well, so anyways, Thursday and Wednesday and Monday.
You're not just throwing R's into everything.
Is that allowed?
No, it's not.
That's not how it works. That's not how any of this works.
Exactly, dude. You know,
whatever.
So today I get to play with these video clips. So normally, by the way, ladies and gents, so we've had a week and a half, 2 weeks or so that we've been using StreamYard, where James has been the behind the scenes guy. So he gets to play all the movie clips. He gets to drop all the comments, all that stuff, right?
Although sometimes we fight with it a little bit, and I wanted to actually chat with you, and screw it, let's just talk about it here and now. So I'm thinking of this as a compromise. Definitely when you feel like it's a good time to drop a video, drop the video.
Oh, I definitely will. Yeah.
But also what tends to happen a lot is like I'll click this solo layout button at the same time as you do, and then it kind of goes back and forth. So I'll let you control the solo layout and switching it back to the double screen here.
So
I'll let you control that.
So I had a conversation with Mitch yesterday. So by the way, for any of you who are listening,
hi Emery.
Hi Emery. If for any of you guys who are listening, if you want a 15-minute phone call with me, it's pretty simple to do. All you got to do is go to businessbros.biz/Hernan. It's my first name. James is going to throw my name back on the screen here for a little bit. So /Hernan, and you're going to go in just my first name. So businessbros.biz/Hernan and schedule a 15-minute call. So I've had a couple, like 3 or 4 15-minute calls this week that I've set up with people that are asking podcast questions, right? And so I was having a conversation with Mitch, and Mitch was saying that he's impressed how when we do the show, there's not really much overlapping of when we talk. When I'm talking or the guest is talking, there's not much of an overlap. And I was telling him one of the reasons is because I'm using this swap. So when I'm speaking and I have the solo swap, or the guest is speaking and has a solo swap, as I can kind of get an idea as the person's getting ready to finish their train of thought, I change the zoom in. So it's both of us, and then they kind of are okay with, finishing their sentence, and it gives me the opportunity to go ahead and ask the next question. So it's just, one of those podcast styles. And it kind of flows with, if you ever watch the news, or whatever kind of like interview show that's on.
Over to you,
TV.
Jim.
Yeah, exactly. And they'll shift the camera over, right? And that's kind of a sign that, hey, whatever the speaker's going to change or the dynamic's going to change. So it's a little bit of a tidbit for those of you who are using StreamYard to kind of utilize those buttons so that you can kind of help the conversation flow the way it's going to flow. And so anyways, I was having a conversation with Mitch, and we were talking about that exact thing, about how we make it happen. And I've had the opportunity, luckily, fortunately, because we're trying to do the podcast tour, where I'm trying to do the podcast tour. I'm trying to get on 50 podcasts in June. So far, I have 12 set up. So if you have, it's learning how to be a good host. It is Marissa. Speaking of which, happy belated birthday. Her birthday was this week.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you. We should have a happy birthday single. Bling! Start playing that little happy birthday song.
Well, these are just things that we can always add.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. So, learning to be a good podcast host, but then learning the controls of StreamYard, which are again super user friendly. Like it makes it so easy for you to produce your own podcast. I was on the real estate show with a view in Orlando, Florida this morning on a podcast, and I was talking to Nick Acosta. He's one of the Power of Podcasting graduates. He took his show. So originally he had started his podcast, but he was paying a studio to produce his show. So he would literally go to the studio 2 times a month, and it was audio only. And so he was paying somebody to produce his podcast. And I had him on the show quite a while back. And I told, and we kind of had been Facebook buddies after that. And I told him, I was like, hey, dude, so I wrote this podcast course. I'm trying to run it with a beta program. I want to see if you're interested. And he had like zero confidence at first. Like he was like, nah, like I'm not tech savvy. I don't really know how to do stuff. That lack of confidence. I don't know if I'm comfortable behind the camera type stuff. And I was like, look, just go through my course and go through the whole process. And if you ever have any questions along the way, I'll help you through it. Right. And so now, Ham, by the way, we over at FanSpark, we've created his intro, his outro videos. He's part of our beta program, so we're going to be launching that for those of you who are going to be in the podcast space to help you produce your podcast. Just like you see our intro at the beginning, our outros, we're going to help create that stuff for you and your stuff, your brand, like our Business Bros logo, how it shoots into the screen, that sort of stuff. Create a logo like that. We call it a zinger logo. And so we did that for Nick. We created his intro, his outro. I helped him get his setup so he can record on Audacity, kind of a similar setup to what we have. And then I had him transition over to StreamYard. And now he has not one show, but 2 shows. He's podcasting 5 days a week, just like. So he podcasts
That's amazing.
For 4 days on his own show called Home to All. And then on Fridays, he has a co-host, and that's the show that I was on today. And the co-host is Yvonne, and she wasn't able to make it on today's show. But it's still, he has that secondary podcast. So he's pumping out tons of content. Went from having zero clue on how to do a podcast, paying a studio to produce his stuff, to now he's on his own doing his own thing.
This is for you, Nick.
Woo! Because let's face it, James, if I don't have to pay for something and I can do it myself.
That's good. One less thing.
One less thing.
Because that's the way we roll, right? So in honor of...
Everybody's like, he was nervous. Yeah, he was, but he ain't no more. He's a pro now.
Not anymore. He's got it. So in honor of that, in honor of Nick going through the course, and then I've been spending a lot of time on Facebook platforms trying to connect with other podcast hosts so I can get on as many podcasts as possible. That gives me the opportunity to talk podcasting, to share what we've done in the 474 episodes that we've been recording podcasting. There's so much stuff. There's people who are at the very beginning asking questions like, what mic should I buy? All the way to like the very end, like how do I create an email list or a landing page to start monetizing my show? All those different things and in between are what's included in the Power of Podcasting book. And so, I love being able to give away a lot of that information, and I really do. So I want to plug, first of all, our podcast group. It's called Podcast Like a Pro. It's on Facebook. If you haven't gotten onto Facebook and gotten on that Podcast Like a Pro group, hop on there, and I literally give you 3 days a week. I hop on there and I do some sort of training, something related to podcasting or something related to content creation, and I share with you things I've already done and things I'm learning along the way, things that I come across. So hop on there, grab some of those gems, some of those pieces of information, and start implementing them in your own podcast, in your own content creation, and watch your brand literally blow up. So James, today I sent you a little screenshot of my Instagram because Mara was the one who was running in the park, right?
That was pretty cool.
So what happened? Tell me that story real quick, just so people can kind of recognize.
It was just early. It was early in the morning, and me and Vanessa are just walking through Balboa Park like we always do, and we see these girls running. No big deal. Just another normal day in Balboa Park. And then all of a sudden one turns around and yells, "Hey, are you Hernan's brother?" I was like, "Yeah." She says, "I watch your show all the time." I was like, "What? That's awesome. So rad. Thank you." So that was the extent of the conversation. That was it. But the whole rest of the walk, I couldn't get it out of my head. I was just like, "What? Somebody recognized us. I'm still Hernan's brother, but somebody recognized us."
Isn't that funny? Like I was telling Rosa the other day when that happened. I was sharing the same story with her, and I was like, I just kind of feel bad for James because he's always been under the shadow. He's always been Hernan's brother, and when we were growing up, he hated that. Like you hated that growing up, but now it's like a whole different thing, right?
I surrender to your will.
It's fine. It's fine.
It's fine. It works.
It is what it is.
So
I'm not sure. It looked like you were about to play a clip.
Yeah, I was too, but that's cool. We were both thinking the same thing. You see, so it's funny how that works.
That's
dude.
Hilarious. We're freaking related.
Let me give the audience a little bit more about like why we do these movie clips. So, part of quarantine, some of the good stuff that happened with this whole COVID thing was we had to modify the way we did the show. We no longer could have a guest in person. And so we had to go remote, and that opened us up to StreamYard. Now, StreamYard wasn't really designed for us to be dropping movie clips. It was more like overlays. So just so you guys know what an overlay is, an overlay is and let's see, do I have an example of an overlay on here? I think I took them all off. There you go. There's an overlay. So we can lay an image over the video that we're currently on over our live stream. We're overlaying an image over our live stream. However, it did allow the capability for us to put in small clips where we put in our intro and we put in our outro, and it gave us the ability to have a fully produced show while we're doing it live. So you guys are, when you're listening to the show, when you're watching the show, we can drop in our intro, our outro, whatever. We still have yet to create a commercial, which we probably will. It'll have some commercial segment in the middle, just because it's our show. We can do that, right? And it's promoting stuff that we're doing. Probably as soon as we finish up with FanSpark, it'll be promos to help you guys out with your intros, outros, and that sort of stuff for your podcast. But not to mention Ham's insurance tips, right? Windows on security bars. That's gonna be a little heads up.
Today. That's today.
Yeah. Egress. Make sure you have egress.
Yeah. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that.
So, anyways, so I learned that you can upload little video clips onto here, and I was like, James, check it out. And I showed him a couple, and he's like, "That's awesome." Because outside of podcasting, when we get together, we get, I don't know, ragged on, I guess, because we're freaking walking cliches. Like there's like everything that comes up in life, there's a movie line for it, and we drop them all the time.
I do not have an original thought in my head. It's all movie quotes.
And so, now that we had the show and we have the capability to drop in movie quotes, literally we're just, anytime I think of one, I go real quick, I create it, I add it to the arsenal, and then all of a sudden we got stuff to drop in. And it's really cool because in a conversation where we would normally drop in that movie line, we literally drop in that movie line, and it makes it so much funner. I think it's so much funner.
And I just think it's hilarious that we were both about to drop the same movie line
at the same time.
Yeah. That was.
How do you like them apples?
Applesauce. Yeah, that should be the other
one.
Huh?
That's the other clip. Yeah.
It's at
followed up.
Mallrats. I think that's Mallrats.
No, that was Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back.
Oh, Jay and all the same world.
all the same Kevin Smith world. Yeah.
So, but anyways, so we're able to add these extra things, and so when you have your show, you can make it however you want. You can do things however you want. That's the beauty of creating your own show. It's your, whatever happens in your brain, whatever happens in your life. I think our guests are a little thrown off sometimes, but you know what? It's cool. Like that's still our thing. And eventually I think you guys are going to like it as viewers, as we add in more and more movie clips. You're going to see us use them better, and we're going to get better at using them and dropping them on cue. And it's just going to be a funner dynamic, a funner show.
We definitely had one show that it was just on point. That was the one with
with Grant.
Oh, Grant, was it?
Was it the Game Face one?
The Game Face one. Yeah.
Yeah, that one's cool.
Yeah. That was a good episode. So do a little quick search, Business Bros Pod, Game Face. You guys can go back and listen to that episode. That was a good one. We dropped some really good movie lines in that one. It was fun.
And for us, a movie line that's good is when it's on point, like that movie line like cemented, gave that exclamation point to the end of that sentence, whatever was being spoken about at that particular time.
Yep.
So anyways, in light of all this cool podcast stuff, and when we get the opportunity, when sometimes a guest has to, not show up or has to reschedule for whatever reason, we get to have our own thing. I get to talk about the power of podcasting, and this is, and all I've spoken about so far was nothing more than your ability to create a show simply by yourself. You can produce a well-produced product simply by yourself. And so I want to get you in a position where you can do that too. And in order for you to do that, all you got to do, I'm going to give away the entire Power of Podcasting ebook. So it's going to cover podcast development. These are the technicalities to get you started. Things like your RSS feed, the cover art for your show, your show name, your show theme, everything to get it started. And then then this next section, like that first section, podcast development, I've been giving it away for free, that first section, for quite some time now. So many of you who are in the Power of Podcasting or the Podcast Like a Pro Facebook groups, you guys have probably already seen those. But the rest of the book is what I haven't given away yet. So the next section would be podcast promotion. So think about it like when a movie comes out and it's going to be in theaters, next summer. What happens? Well, from now until next summer, you're starting to see a release of a little bit of maybe a trailer, a teaser, then a little bit of a trailer. Then you start seeing the actors on going on their tour, going on basically to
Jimmy Kimmel
at Comic-Con, at Jimmy Kimmel, at all the late night shows promoting the movie, right? And then when the movie finally launches, the anticipation is so great, everybody floods the box office. So we have a similar approach when we do your podcast. That's the podcast promotion side. And then we have the launch and visibility. So now you've gone off with a bang. You have people listening to your show. How do you maintain that visibility? How do you get people to see your show on a regular basis? And so we talk about golden nuggets. We talk about hashtagging. We talk about repurposing content. We talk about finding interviews and all those different things in the launch and visibility section. And then we get to the monetization section. And everybody knows that in podcasting, the way to get your monetizing, the way to monetize is by sponsorships, right? Now, I refer to those as the holy grail of podcasting because, yes, that is the best way to monetize. It's not the easiest way to monetize. It's the more difficult way. But there are other ways that you can monetize using your podcast. Once you have an audience, there are a lot of things that you can do, and that's what we talk about in the monetization phase. And we're talking about, finding your 1,000 raving fans and all kinds of different cool stuff. So I'm giving away the entire version, but it's just a secret. You have to have watched this particular episode. No other, it doesn't get posted anywhere else. I'm only going to leave it up for, I think by the end, maybe a week. I'll give it a week where you can get the full version for free. So $free. Zero free dollars. All you got to go is to www.businessbros.biz/free pop. Power of Podcasting, free pop, and then grab yourself that copy of that ebook and start your podcast. There's how much does it cost to start a podcast, by the way? Assuming you're not going to use a mic, you're just going to use your standard laptop mic, you can get into your podcast audio, video for $free. Free.
Absolutely amazing.
$free.
And then all of a sudden you are creating content and building your own brand. How do you like that? Just like that.
All right, Ham. Tell me about the window bars.
Shall we do it? Let's talk about the window bars. Why not? So there's a lot of people out there that have bars on their windows, right? If you're renting your house, not much you can do about it. But if you are the property owner, whether it's your home or especially we see this most often in rental properties. So if you're providing security bars for your rental properties, make sure that your window security bars have the what do you call it? The spring release, right? They have to be, oh man, I'm losing the name of it right off the top of my head. Quick release. That's, yeah. See, it's super simple, but like I get lost. So quick release. I watched the YouTube video on how to install it. There's going to be a little pedal, like a little kick pedal inside the door, like towards, or inside the wall towards the bottom of that window. So nobody can actually just like reach down and hit that or anything. It's way too low for anybody to reach in the window and be able to access it. But if there's an emergency fire or anything like that, you should be able to kick that quick release, open the bars, get the bars off of that window, and be able to get out of your home. If you don't have those that quick release system in your on your security bars on those windows, you might not be eligible for the best possible policies out there. You're still going to be able to find a policy, but especially in our renters policy, in our landlord protection policies, the companies that I've seen will not cover liability. So if you don't have those quick release security bars and somebody gets injured because they can't get out of your house, you're screwed, man. You got to make sure you have those quick release bars so that your tenants can get out of that house in case of a fire. All right, that is Ham's insurance tip for the day. Follow me on Twitter at InsuranceBroHam.
Boom. All right, Ham. I'm going to take this in a whole different level, a whole different, we're going to pivot.
See, there's another one.
I know.
We're missing the pivot. We're missing the, ain't I been saying it, Miguel? We're missing that one.
You got to write them down. Write them down.
Write them down. All right. I got you.
Ain't I been saying it, Miguel? The pivot, and we were on a break.
Oh, God. Love it. All right. So Emery learned something today.
Sweet. That's what it's all about. All right, let's pivot real quick. You ready? Let's go into what's going on in the world today. So
what's going on in the world today? People,
I haven't been watching the news.
Shooting, looting.
Right? And that's the biggest part, right?
Yeah.
Looting and shooting. Okay, so we had another police officer assaulting an African-American individual who was killed, right?
Yep.
And in the video, you can clearly hear him saying how he couldn't breathe and they didn't let him up anyways. The guy dies, right? Now, I'm going to give you my opinion on this. First of all,
are we about to have another fight?
I don't know. Maybe. Well, that's why I'm throwing it out there. Let's see how it goes. So, first of all, definitely wrong, right? Overexerted. It was not necessary when somebody's in a situation where they are telling you they can't breathe. You need to put them in a situation where they can breathe. I mean, it's pretty simple. And you can't be punished for your crimes if you're not there to be punished for your crimes. Kind of
right.
Rule number one.
Sure.
However, and I can understand the uprising of people being angry with the situation, and that I completely understand. What I don't understand, what I do not agree with, is the rioting and the bussing up stuff and the brutality that comes in afterward. That I do not understand.
I will not comment. Well, let me I will comment. I'm not going to criticize people that are looting and doing all that stuff if I'm not going to also equally with, or probably with more measure, criticize the cops. So in other words, I'm not going to comment on just the looting and the rioting and all that stuff without also commenting on how wrong the entire situation was that led to that.
That's why I started with the wrongness of the situation.
Both wrong.
That is my point. Both are wrong. Right?
Both are wrong.
You can't answer, again, this comes back to our Nazi conversation. You can't answer what's going on with more violence. I just think it doesn't solve the problem, right? Awareness, yes. Protest, yes. Pressure to put this person, these police officers who are acting inappropriately in jail, absolutely.
Hell yes.
But destruction of property,
Well, let's
Like
let's
rioting
take
in the
it.
streets.
Okay, we can agree that both are wrong.
Yes.
Right? The cop definitely used excessive force. He's fired. He's being tried for third-degree murder, from what I understand. And obviously the rioting and looting also wrong. But let's
Also
take it
wrong.
back a step. Let's go back. Right? Let's talk about taking a knee. Right?
We're gonna go
We're
to
gonna go
Colin
all the way
Kaepernick.
back to that because you're saying it's wrong to riot, it's wrong to loot. Yeah, okay, for sure. But that's a frustration. That's a result of no credit or no consideration being given to the peaceful protest, or the peaceful protest being turned against the actual message.
But see, for me, the actual message is always being distorted by the opposing side, right? Whatever the opposing side is. That's like watching the news on both sides of the red and the blue channel. It doesn't matter. They distort whatever happens to whoever's agenda, right? And like if you talk about the whole like Colin Kaepernick thing, I think what he did was completely justified.
Mm-hmm.
But did he suffer a consequence, unfortunately, because he took a stand? Yeah. But even though the message gets distorted on one side, the message is clearly there. Like literally today, you see hashtags of Black Lives Matter.
Uh-huh.
And you can stem it back all the way to that whole movement. So you might not have liked the result that he had. He knew doing what he was doing was at risk. Continuing to do what he was going to do was at risk, and not really, potentially his life, yeah, but mostly his career.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he did essentially lose the career, but the movement had a face. The movement had a voice.
Right.
And people were behind that. That's okay. Like
some people were behind it. Some people were behind it.
That's always going to be the case.
That's all that is. And my whole point with that though is that you can't be on one side saying that looting is wrong and you shouldn't be looting and blah blah blah, but by the same token say, well, he can't kneel for the the national anthem because that's against the military and that's against this, and it's not about that. It's the reason for it is to raise awareness, and it's a protest against the things that are happening still in this world. But people turn that message to make it like that, like if that message is something else, and it gives more fuel to the fire and creates a bigger divide. But if it's all about the narrative.
I believe
it really is.
I believe it was Gandhi that said, "An eye for an eye leaves the world blind."
True.
Right. And that's again, for me, it's always about that finding the positivity in whatever the situation can possibly be, even as dire. Like, so today in the 5 a.m. club, we were talking about like when you're at your darkest, what's the thing that you tell yourself, or the thing that helps you get through whatever your situation is. And for me, it comes down to like, by the way, I watched Castaway the other day. So tomorrow the sun will rise, or like, I'm still here. Like no matter what the situation is, as bad as it's going to get, if you're opening your eyes and you're alive that day, you're still here. You have the opportunity to do whatever you want to do, to completely ignore the situation, to be a part of the movement, to be a face of the movement. Like, you have a choice to do what you want to do at that point, because you're still here. And for me, when you allow yourself to get to the complete frustration point where you're destroying things, or you're pushing, you're not doing any better than the guy who was over there initiating the wrong move.
I'm just gonna throw this up here.
Of course you were.
Of course I was. Because you're right. Answering violence with violence is not the answer. It's never going to be the answer, right? But you know what? Black Lives Matter. George Floyd, say his name. Like, it's just sad that this continues.
It is.
You know, it's incredibly sad, and you know, it's worse. Like if these cops, all four of them, right? They got one, right? One is being charged, but there were three others that were complicit. There were three others that were accessories, and they should be equally tried.
And here's my thing. I wasn't there for the whole thing. So
You
it's
didn't
kind of
need to
hard.
be. You didn't need to be.
But you always do that. But I believe you do. I believe there's more to a situation than than ever meets the eye when you see a clip, right? And I just feel like, first of all,
did you read what he got supposedly arrested for?
No. I didn't see it, and I'm not saying he didn't
Writing a bad check.
Yeah, I didn't know exactly what it was. I have no idea. That's not my point here. I'm just saying that normally you have to see the entire thing to get a good understanding. Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. No, you do. Because you need to have an understanding of the whole thing. I'm not saying this is unjustified. Like this is totally unjustified. I'm not saying that it wasn't wrong. I'm not saying any of that. All I'm saying is you can't always go with just a clip. That's like taking something in a speech and taking a few words out of context and then putting it out there. I just don't feel like. I'm
pretty sure that the full video was 9 minutes long, and he had his knee on his neck for 9 minutes. So I don't know how much more you need to see, but that's 9 minutes of somebody's neck on your back. I don't need to see any more, personally. That's enough.
Okay. I agree. I agree that was wrong. I totally agree. I'm just saying there's always situations that get distorted. I think that is excessive. I think 1 minute on your neck is excessive. 9 minutes is way too much. But again, there's more to a lot of stories that we get pushed before we know entire situations. And the only reason I'm saying that is because it's tough being a police officer as is. When you talk about the three other guys that are complicit and you don't know what's going on around them, maybe the one cop is doing is horrible, right? Maybe he is totally racist and he's taking out whatever frustration in his life on this one person, right? That's probably happening. But if you have a crowd of people around you and you're threatened, those other three cops are almost feeling like, oh crap, like what's going on here? And they're not exactly complicit, but they're not exactly paying attention to that either. And that's why I'm saying there's more to the situation. If you're somebody who's there and sees the whole thing, there's more to the picture than just that one person. And it's kind of hard to judge everything
I'll give you that. I'll give you that. There's definitely, I mean, look, man, cops have their lives on the line every day. You know, I have the utmost respect and appreciation for what police officers do. I think that they are, most of them, you know, I think the vast majority are, you know, doing a service to their community. You know, when people used to say, thank you for your service to me when I was wearing my uniform, like I've said the same thing to police officers, first responders, period, right? Lives on the line every day. Firefighters, AMTs, police, whatever. But there has to be a limit, and there has to be, you know, like, even though there's all kinds of stuff happening around you, like, you have to be able to look back. That's 9 minutes, dude. That's a long freaking time.
No,
I totally long get that. Time for you to stand around and see whatever crowd might be gathering, for you not to go back to your partner or, you know, colleague and say, hey man, like, you shouldn't have your knee on his neck. Like,
again,
at least go back and say, hey man, just lift up off his neck. Like, you can still hold him down, whatever. But
it's easy to say for us who aren't in that situation.
For
if
sure.
You've ever been in a situation where you're about to
quarterbacking.
When you're about to get jumped by like 7 dudes, you're not thinking about, oh, you know, what am I stepping on or what am I doing? You're worried about a particular situation. And I'm sure as that thing progressed and spiraled out of control, a crowd was building, and 9 minutes probably didn't feel like 9 minutes. It probably felt like 45 minutes. right? I mean, it's not. I'm not saying, I'm not justifying what he did at all. All I'm saying is there's more to every single story, and we can't, as a society, jump to a conclusion. And at the same time, if there is a bad cop out there, that bad cop should be held to a much higher standard with a much more severe punishment than your regular than the regular civilian.
100% agree with you, but what's the history been?
But see, that's the thing, though. How many cops are out there? Like, statistically, how many cops are out there? And then how many of them do we have that are bad, that do wrong stuff? Like, it's still, like you said, it's a small
percentage, but you
it's
you
wrong
said it,
nonetheless.
But you said it, though. They should be held to a higher standard.
They should.
But what has the history been?
Oh, I have no idea. I have no idea.
Go all the way back to, like, the earliest I can remember, Rodney King.
Well,
what was the history there?
In riots too.
That resulted in riots. Why?
Because they were acquitted.
Because they were acquitted. And what has the history been?
It's been on the side of...
They get acquitted. Yeah. They don't get held to a higher standard. They don't get held to any standard that... Even the standard. They get let loose. They get freed. They get to go about their lives almost as if nothing happened. However, that's why people are angry. That's why people are upset. That's why people are rioting. Because it doesn't matter if you put their feet to the fire when the judge just turns around and says, oh no, not guilty.
But is it a judge or is it a jury of their peers? And
when they're able to, you're right. But when they're able to circumvent the system, like the system is broken in that sense.
I don't know. It's tough. Because I would like to think that if there was 12 jurors deciding the fate and they're seeing the entire case, they're making a much more in-depth judgment than you and I watching a 9-minute clip. Mm-hmm. I would like to believe that. However, you're right. It doesn't work the right way all the time. Case in point, the O.J. Simpson trial. Everybody knows he's guilty.
If he was guilty, here's how.
Yeah, exactly.
If I did here's how.
And yet, a jury of 12 of his peers acquitted him. So I'm not saying that it's wrong. I'm just saying that when we let the law do its thing, most of the time I would like to think that a 12-person jury hearing the entire case will make a valid decision.
I think they will make a legal decision, but it's not necessarily the right one because there's just times that they find loopholes. They find, how many times have you seen, where they O.J. Simpson, right? They find just the tiniest thing to give just enough
admissible
doubt.
In court. Yeah. Yeah. I get it. It's not 100%, but I just feel like that it gets tried in the court of public opinion much quicker and much harsher than an actual sit down and here's all the evidence type court.
It always does. It definitely always does. The court of public opinion is
fickle.
It's inadmissible in actual court.
Yeah,
probably for a good reason.
And
but
that's
still,
good. Again, I just wanted to bring it up because my main point for this whole thing was don't answer with violence for something that happened. Push the agenda. Use it at hashtag.
Question for you.
Talk about it.
Hashtag it. Talk about it. How about shut down a freeway about it? Peaceful protest. No riot.
It is a more peaceful protest unless you're the one stuck on the freeway.
Too bad for you. Gets everybody's attention. I loved the freeway protests when those were happening.
I would rather see a freeway protest than a destruction of a police station. Because now you're putting the police at a point where they're threatened.
Oh yeah,
and those other police officers that are in there, majority are good.
Probably, but the fact is that most of those black people feel threatened. So
no, I get that.
Right back to you.
And I get that. Everybody does, but no, not all of them are being assaulted all the time. And again,
ooh,
and they may feel offended a lot.
You know, I was reading.
And I have no. And here's the thing: I don't have any clue what it's like to grow up black. I have
That's
zero
it, yeah.
clue,
dude.
So I can't. But here's the thing, though. I can only read stories. I can say that if you are aggressive, you will get aggression, and it goes both ways, right? And it goes from the white guy being aggressive towards the black guy. Guess what? The black guy is going to come back and retort. And unfortunately, you're right. We live in a society where when the black guy defends himself, he gets punished more than the white guy does. That is
true.
Not fair and not cool, right? However, aggression begets aggression. And I would rather see a freeway stoppage than an attack on a police station, because then you have people, the cops defending themselves, and now they shoot rubber pellets, and they shot a rubber pellet at somebody's head on accident. And now that person dies, and now that's another martyr, and it just perpetuates more and more. So, I don't know, my opinion, find a peaceful way to make this a bigger deal than a violent way to make it a tragic deal, more of a tragedy.
They have, hence the kneeling during the national anthem. That was part of it.
For shizzle.
The freeways, that's part of it. But apparently that's not enough, and we still have this happening. Not to justify the looting. There's no justification for it, but it's, oh man, how did MLK say it? Rioting is an answer to being unheard, or something like that.
It's not always the right answer, but it is an answer.
It's not the right answer, but it is an answer to being unheard.
Man, anyways, good stuff for a Friday.
Good stuff for a Friday. Always a pleasure.
All right, dude.
You didn't quite light me up today, but
I didn't quite. But I thought I was gonna push some buttons on that one.
Yeah. No, you got me. It was like 40%.
40% there.
Yeah. No. Definitely. When I'm talking about, yeah.
Dude, I almost had you.
Man, it don't matter if it's by an inch or a mile.
Right? It don't matter if it's by an inch or a mile.
Good stuff.
All right, ladies and gentlemen.
You know what, ladies and gentlemen, take this weekend and
try to make the world a better place.
Absolutely. All right.
There you go.
That's all we got for you guys today. Peace.
Bye-bye.
And we're out.
Thank you for listening to the Business Bros Podcast. Are you looking to get more clients or to increase your income? Hernan, the business bro, can help you generate referrals through the power of podcasting. And James, the insurance bro with Pipeline Insurance, can help you effectively add insurance to your existing business. If you are ready to create wealth today and generational wealth for tomorrow, email businessbros@seeusfirst.com to schedule a free consultation, or join the Business Bros Network, www.businessbros.biz.